This is Renda Writer. Check me out on episode 59 of the Great American Hip Hop Debate Podcast.
Welcome world. Episode 59 of the Great American Hip Hop Debate Podcast. I am Brother Burnz. To the left of me, I got the brother VS.
VS to the OP, you know what it be. We back at it.
Welcome back, brother.
Yeah, baby.
on the check-in, I got International Blood.
Oh, what's good? We back.
And in-house guest today, we have the Renaissance man, poet, and artist, Renda Writer.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, brother. Thank you for being here. Prayers up to the brother DMX. We started the show with the DMX song because there was like some bad news about him either last night or this morning. So we just want to send some prayers up to the dog, the legend.
Man, prayers to the dog, man. Prayers.
Keep him, with good spirits. Shout out to brother F.
Yeah, man.
Doing the technology thing, photography / video / audio /
everything.
Getting right.
Straight fuego.
Lighting. He gave me the shape up when I got here.
Yeah, he did all that. He did his taxes the other day and shit.
Shout out to all the listeners on Spotify. Shout out to all the listeners on Apple Podcasts. Shout out to everybody checking in on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to Brother F, like I said. Shout out to Straight Fuego Studios. Shout out to everybody that follows the pages. Make sure you're following at GAHHD_podcast. Make sure you're following the brother at Renda Writer. That's at RENDAWRITER. Make sure you're following at The Real VSOP. That's a Twitter exclusive. Make sure you're following at Deadass_worldwide. And make sure you're following at Comey_Joseph_. Thank you and welcome. And what's popping, y'all?
Yo, we back, baby. Shit. This shit feels weird almost.
How you?
Yo, I'm back, baby. Yeah, like I said, it feels like I just came home and shit. Like I'm fresh out the yard.
Yo, this guy. Yeah, you the tales you were talking about before. It sounds like you were straight out the yard.
Yeah, I was doing some ill research and watching some documentaries and shit, and fucking studying some killers.
I don't know. I think you've been watching too much Eyes and shit. This guy was watching too much Eyes.
Yo, I watched a documentary last night about the Ripper in not ancient in like New England back in the day. In England,
you mean in England?
Yeah.
England back in the day.
Jack the Ripper.
Yo, that was pretty ill. And I saw this other documentary about White Boy Rick.
Oh yeah,
y'all know about White Boy Rick?
Yeah, I seen the movie.
From Detroit?
I seen the movie, yeah.
All right, so there's a documentary.
I know it's on Netflix. I gotta watch that shit.
Yeah, he was a 17-year-old drug dealer in Detroit, and
but was he really a drug dealer,
That's
or
the
was
thing.
he really, or was he working with the feds to
that's
entrap
the
other
thing.
drug
You got to
dealers?
watch the documentary. I don't
Yeah.
want to tell you everything, but yes,
Think about it.
because he did both.
Yes,
You know what I mean? So he
Exactly.
was working for the FBI
He got bagged.
at the age of 14,
because he got bagged.
and also he was dealing drugs.
Yeah.
And then when he got bagged, the FBI kind of deserted him, and the media played it up to be like he was the fucking big kingpin.
Mind you, he was 17 years old. He's still in high
That's
school.
kind of what they did with Bobby Shmurda.
So he was in jail for 28 years for a coke charge.
Wow.
Wow.
That was
That's
that
his
was
whole
like
life.
You seen that shit, Blood? White Boy Rick. You seen that movie?
Yeah, I seen the movie. Yeah, I seen the movie originally. We got ties to Detroit, Michigan. So I was like blown away by the shit that he pulled off. But what was you saying, Renda, about Bobby Shmurda?
Well, I didn't really know anything about Bobby Shmurda. I don't really know a lot of this new school stuff, but I drive a lot and I listen to podcasts, and I listened to this like 2-hour podcast all about him and his case or whatever. Are you guys familiar? Right. So he's got this gang. What's it called?
GS9.
GS9. Yeah. So whatever, they locked him up and they did the same thing. They painted him as like this leader of it and everything. And he's like, I'm not. I'm a rapper. So they think that.
They kind of did that because of him though, because he actually took on extra time so his boy could get off.
Right. Yeah. So it's a combination of both. But it was very interesting. Like, I still don't really know much about his music. I heard that one song that's a big hit. But, you know, I just listened to this long I forgot what it was called, but there's some podcast, I think it's through NPR, that's basically all about like hip hop and crime. And so I listened to the Bobby Shmurda episode, and then an episode about the guy that was there was a guy that was on No Limit, man. I can't even remember his name now, but he was
C Murder?
No, or was it No Limit, or was it the Cash Money? I'm blanking on his name, but there was this dude that was down with one of those labels that was like really lyrical. They were calling him like the Nas of the South. He didn't sound like, you know, those other guys. He was the most lyrical of all of them. But he got locked up, had some kind of charge and whatever. And, you know, this podcast talks all about it. And that's kind of why you never heard of him, because that got in the way of him blowing up. But he was about to be huge.
I think you're talking about maybe, if it's not C Murder,
it might have been Mac.
No Limit, might be Turk from No Limit.
No, Mac from
Mac.
early No Limit.
Yes, right. So he was No Limit. His name is Mac Ferg or something, like, it's because his real name I think is Mac, and then his last name is something, and that's like part of his.
I just remember him as Mac, and I remember he was like anticipated.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He was the Nas of the South. They were like, this dude is No Limit.
You know when Master P was dropping like albums every week, Mac would pop up, and I even think he might have dropped an album. He might have dropped like one album.
Yes, and the thing is that he was super lyrical, and then the No Limit guys had him dumb it down, and he released this album that he was not really happy with, and it was not lyrical. It was just like guns and girls and stuff, and it was like that age-old tale. Like, he felt like he sold his soul to the devil. Like, he sold out. Like, he wanted to do this, and he did that for the money, and blah blah. It's just like this usual tale, you know?
That's the music biz.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
But Brother Renda, you are obviously a hip hop head.
Yep.
Like
to the core.
Yeah, in the
hip-hop
DNA.
Head down to the feet.
You were born in New York?
Yeah, I was born in Long Island.
Oh, no shit. Born in Long Island.
Deer Park.
No shit.
Well, I guess I was born in West Islip.
I had my grandma out there.
Yeah.
In Deer Park. That's funny. Wow, what a small world.
Yeah.
But you grew up in more so in Miami or more so in Long Island?
Well, Long Island till age 10, and then from 11 to 18, South Florida, outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Suburb Lauderdale. Coral Springs.
Nice.
So yeah, 11 to 18, Coral Springs,
suburban.
Florida. Yeah, it was very suburban. And then 18, I went to college, and I went to University of Florida in Gainesville, North Florida. And then after college, I moved right back to New York, and I lived in Astoria, Queens for like 4 years. And that was until about 2004. Then I moved back to Florida. I lived in Boca Raton. And then I lived there for like 4 years. And then after that, I just started living like a nomad. I started living out of my car. I was sleeping at the beach. I was sleeping on the floor of friends' houses and at a recording studio and just wherever. And then I finally got a better car. And then my car wrecked. And then I was like really like homeless, just staying on some dude's couch and like no transportation and nothing. And then, but I was working. I had a jobby job. Right. And I saved up money and I bought a van. And around that time,
that's like a condominium.
Yes, I was like rich, you know. And so I bought a van, and that was really a part of the time where everything started to align, where like the new me was being born, because I'm talking around 2013.
Right.
So from 2000 all the way up till 2013, I was very much a poet, and that was very much my identity. Spoken word, writing, recording, performing, all of that. That was my thing. And I was this poet influenced by hip hop. So I had like a hip hop cadence, but I was a poet, you know. But yes, around 2013 was when my love for words started to go visual, and around the time I got the van and stuff too. But so I haven't had a real address since I don't even know, 2013, I guess, or 2012.
What?
So
Wow.
the whole question of where are you from or where do you live sometimes requires a long answer for me.
Yeah.
But I like to say, like, I'm from Earth, like you.
But that's
You know
like the
what I mean?
vibe you give.
Yeah. And that's cool. Then
Yeah.
it works. I'm putting myself out the way I want to be put out, and people are receiving it, you know, the way I want to be received. But I like that's, you know, life is art. You know what I mean? And especially if you're living it correctly. And as an artist, I'm aware of that, conscious of that. And so my greatest piece of work is my life itself.
Right.
And I live it very artistically. I live it everywhere. You know, it's just where am I at? Where I need to be. I go where the weather is nice. I go where the money is. I go where the opportunity is. I go to the places that spark my curiosity. You know, I go. You know, I'm not confined by anything. And it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Word.
Now, you started as a poet. That was your original outlet of creativity,
Yeah.
the poetry?
Yeah.
And you recognized your passion for it at an early age?
No, not really an early age. I mean, at an early age, I got turned on to hip hop. And so hip hop is at the root of all of the permutations of who I've been and who I am and who I will become.
Who put you
know what
on?
I would say Red Alert. What do you mean?
Just radio? Like how did you discover hip hop?
Oh yeah, basically Red Alert on the radio. You know, so when I was like, yes, and I'm doing an event with him, right? That I sent you the link.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
look at that. May 8th, I'm doing live art at an event with Red Alert
That's
and
big.
Ralph
That's
McDaniels.
big.
That's
Yeah.
when you
Coming
was
full circle, yeah.
But yeah, I guess it started with Red Alert because when I was like maybe 7, 8, in Long Island, I had an older brother too. You know, a lot of hip hop heads have like an older brother or someone that's like a few years older, and so they're a little more tapped into music, and then it comes through them, you know.
Yeah.
So my brother is 3 years older, and so I'm like 7, 8. He's like 10, 11. You know, early mid 80s, New York. We're growing up, and we're listening to Red Alert on the radio, like when my parents think we're asleep. You know what I mean? We're turning on the radio, listening really low and stuff. But I remember like some of the early like first hip hop songs that hit me from that was like The Freaks Come Out at Night by Houdini, all that early Biz Markie stuff too, and like of course Run DMC and Beastie Boys. Like vivid memories of like riding my bike to some store to buy Raising Hell on cassette and Salt and Pepper's Hot, Cool and Vicious, and so those are the early ones. Salt and Pepper and BDP and Biz Markie and whatever Red Alert was playing and just all that stuff. So that's kind of like
funny.
the start. But yeah, so I knew at like 8 or 9 I was a hip hop fan, but I wasn't yet any kind of an artist. I didn't yet feel the need to put it out. I
Right.
was just
It was
taking it
absorbing.
in. Yeah. But then I guess around the time I went to college was when I kind of like started to experiment with like writing, you know, like writing wannabe rap lyrics. Honestly, I was
Right.
like, I'm a rapper.
What did you go to college for?
What did I go to college for, or what did I major in? Those are
Yeah.
two different things.
Yeah, what did you major in?
I majored in finance. So, and I'm an artist. But what did I go to college for? I don't know.
To
because
experience it.
I did well in high school. I got some scholarships and I was on some prepaid. And so why not? That's where you go, right?
That's awesome.
So I went to college because I thought I was supposed to go to college.
Nice. And at college, were you exposed to now different hip hop?
Yeah, a little bit, you know. In high school, I had some close friends that like shared the same love that I did for hip hop, but also a lot of people, or I should say most of the kids in my school outside of these like two or three core friends, they were more into like Miami bass.
Well, that's right. I was going to say, because now for high school, you're in Miami.
Right.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
Coral Springs.
you're in Florida,
But
I'm sorry.
yeah, totally. So Miami bass was big.
Yeah.
Two Live Crew was big. Poison Clan was big. The
So
69
this is when
Boys.
you were exposed to the different sound when you went from New York to...
But I mean, you know, I've always been kind of open-minded. So when I first started listening to hip hop, it was New York stuff. It was boom bap type stuff. It was that.
Yeah.
But when Digital Underground came out, I was like, these guys are good
Oh,
too.
hell yeah.
You know,
It was just
like-
harder to
Obtain.
to obtain back
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
when we were younger.
Yeah, of course.
But,
There wasn't
you know,
the internet. You didn't have the internet.
When this, you know, as we go through the years, like once Yo MTV Raps came out,
Yeah.
once The Source came out, then things were a little more accessible, and then you could be like, oh, LA's got a thing going on, and you know all this stuff. So,
And the box.
yeah,
For some
The
reason,
box.
on the box, I always remember a song called "Your Mama's on Crack Rock."
Yeah.
And that was the hook. I have no idea. I just remember as a kid, I was like, your mama's on crack rock. Nah, no, she's not. Your mama's on crack rock. And I'm like,
hell were
yo,
You crazy.
And there was another song called Had Too Much to Drink. You overdid it.
EPMD.
Home. You had too much to drink.
Yeah.
And the video. And I just remember those two videos on the box. Like, yo, this hip hop thing is kind of crazy.
Right up.
But then in relocating now, you're more exposed to the Miami bass sound.
Yeah. So I was hearing a lot of that and stuff, as well as like just still holding on to the New York stuff. Because, you know, it was all available at the store. You know, I'd ride my bike to the mall and buy Big Daddy Kane, Bismarcky, whatever, you know. So as we get into the 90s and stuff, you know, things become a little more like commonplace. And I'm getting older. I'm more cognizant and whatever. So middle school years, high school years, you know, is where this is taking shape. And then I go to college, and I got more exposed to other music, period. I got into Mariah Carey. I got really into Fiona Apple. Are you guys into Fiona Apple at all?
First album's great.
I'm
First
saying,
album's sick.
I am such a hip hop head, but Fiona Apple resonates with me as much as the RZA. You know what I mean? Like, so that first album, Tidal, that came out when I was in college, and she's still dropping albums. I have almost all of her albums, and she's ridiculous. I just think anyone that likes hip hop and music and expression and words, you know, see, that's what I'm saying. Is that's how I started to realize I'm a poet, you know? So my first consciousness of myself is I'm a fan of hip hop. And then, you know, I start to experiment. Oh, I can make words rhyme too. Maybe I'm going to be a rapper, you know, but that's stupid. You know, don't tell anyone about that. And you know what I mean? And you learn who you are through process of elimination. And then I see like, okay, but the way Fiona Apple sings, and when I look at her lyrics, it's like, reminds me of hip hop almost, like all these people, Jim Morrison and Jill Scott. And then I started to see like all these people of different genres, you know, now in college and after college. That's what I was seeing. I went through my Jim Morrison phase big time. I feel like everyone that likes the Doors likes them, but then they maybe have a period where they really liked them, you know, and especially if you're a male, a white male, you might even get like a bit of a Jim Morrison complex, you know, like I am Jim Morrison, you know what I mean? And I went through that. Like I had really long hair for a while, and I didn't think I was him at all, you know what I mean? I know who I am, but I
you just felt him.
Yes, exactly. Like I had long hair. I was calling myself a poet. I was interested in like the poet identity. I had just gotten this tattoo, and I was listening to the Doors like crazy, and I was like,
did you take peyote at all?
No.
We're still looking for
right.
peyote, yo.
Not yet. To be determined.
Smoke the mate's legs.
But yeah, so like in college, I got into some other things, you know, and then I started to meet other people that were into hip hop and music of all sorts outside of just like the 2 or 3 close, like nerdy friends that I had in high school, you know, and you know, I met some people that were DJs too. So now I'm meeting people that are more than fans. They're like involved in it.
Right. And
I started going to like clubs in my college town. There was like, I think there was a club that had like a Wu-Tang night, you know, and that was like insane. Like, you know, before that, I'd never really gone. Plus, I should mention, I already did, I was very much a nerd, you know, I still am. So I was not like cool by any stretch. I was very cool with the nerds. But with the general public, no, I was a nerd. You know, I was not even on the radar of the cool kids in high school or whatever. And even in college, I was kind of a nerd. But so I remember going to this. But
we're all nerds.
Yes, I mean, obviously you guys are too. This is a nerdy undertaking of your passion, and that's why being a nerd is cool. It's mad cool.
Nerds took over.
Yes,
Revenge of the Nerds is real.
That's what
it really is. But like I remember going to this club that had this like Wu-Tang night, and then this was during like the mixtape era and stuff, and this was when some of us were starting to discover the internet a little bit. Like I got my first email address back then, and I somehow found on the internet a place where you could buy mixtapes, and I bought like a Best of Wu-Tang mixtape by DJ B. And then I bought like a Best of Tupac mixtape, and I think this was around the time he died. And then I dubbed him, like made like 50 copies of them, and then I would bring them to this Wu-Tang club and sell them out of the bathroom.
Oh shit!
Yo, you gotta hustle. Hip hop is all about the hustle.
Yeah.
If there's one thing hip hop teaches you is you gotta fucking hustle.
How to make something out of nothing.
It definitely
That's
taught
how
me
you
that.
flip your nerdum.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, you know, being a nerd and being an entrepreneur, almost the same thing, really. You know, because
they go
being a
hand in
nerd
hand.
about something means you're passionate about it, and if you're passionate about it enough, and you learn how to monetize it, then congrats, you're an entrepreneur.
And if you're smart enough, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And then I started making my own mixtapes. Like I just made little pause tapes. I didn't have turntables or nothing, and I didn't have any kind of exclusive content, but I had a collection of like literally 1,000 cassettes, and I made a mixtape, DJ Static. And I sold it in my school, but I didn't tell him it was me. I said I got this tape from some guy, DJ Static in New York. You know what I mean? But it was me.
It was you. You were DJ.
And did they like it?
Yeah. I sold a lot of copies. And I used I like sampled this J. Rue lyric where he says the word static. So like I had an intro, you know what I mean? Like, and it was just pause mixing on a double cassette deck. So but anyways, so all that stuff we discussed.
That's so hip hop.
Yeah.
That's very hip hop.
Hip hop, yes, and hip hop is the hustle, and vice versa. So you know, a part of that is just in me anyway. No matter even if hip hop never existed, and I went through a different genre of music, I would still be this kind of dude. But obviously, I identify with the ethos of hip hop, the work ethic of it, and but yeah, all that is more like fan stuff. So when did I start like putting output? Well, that was after college when I moved to New York. So I moved to New York to work in the record industry. So that's what I'm saying is I was obsessed with hip hop, but didn't really know what to do with it. Am I an artist, or am I this or that? Or what is my role in this? And so around senior year, all my classmates have ambitions of working for Price Waterhouse Coopers and Morgan Stanley Dean Witter and all these companies where I'm like, what do you even do there? What does that even mean? Like that's what I'm saying. I was on track for that. Like you're gonna make 80 grand to start, and you're gonna work at Price Waterhouse Coopers, and you're gonna be a financial analyst. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I can't even wrap my head around that. And yes, 80 grand sounds cool, but what? So I think it was around senior year that I just, looked at that. And then I looked at the other option, as simple as this: do what you love.
Yeah.
Do what you love. That's it.
What were we just talking about with the selling your soul?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? You were in the same predicament as Mac. Yeah.
So I was not trying to sell my soul. So I just listened to that. Do what you love. And I kind of like sat with myself and was like, what do I love? And, honestly, I'm like 20. I'm not that developed of a person yet. I'm not really that deep. So just the obvious answer was like hip hop. I got 1,000 cassettes. I know all the lyrics. I could tell you Big Daddy Kane's real name. Like, I was just so I'm nerdy about hip hop. What do I do with that? And I was like, I'll work in the record industry. But then I was like, but unfortunately, the whole industry is in New York. I'm in Florida. I have no connections in the industry. I have like a 3.8 GPA in school, and I have a lot of knowledge of hip hop, but what do I do with that? Yeah. Because the industry does not care about your GPA or even your degree. Yeah. So
and most of them don't care about your knowledge on hip hop either.
Yeah, that too. But so now around that time, that is 2000 when I graduated college. Around that time, I was actually kind of inspired by Puff Daddy. Not so much his music, because like my taste in hip hop was kind of anti-Puff.
Right.
But I was inspired by his businessness and starting Bad Boy and stuff. And then honestly, when that Puff Daddy and the Family album came out, that was dope. I mean, everybody likes that, right? So I started to like his music too, and just his business sense, and I was
and the drive.
And at the time I was reading this unauthorized Puff Daddy biography. I forgot who wrote it, but it wasn't him. But so I was reading that, and I was reading about how he started. He became an intern at Uptown and blah blah. Moved on from there. So that's kind of where I realized, like, you got to be an intern. If you want to do anything in the industry, your college degree doesn't matter. You just have to get an internship. So I got an internship. I set my mind on that. That's my intention. While everyone around me is like, we're going to go make 80 grand. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to work for free.
I'm going to work for free.
And I'm going to move across the nation to do it. And so I did. And so I got an internship at Columbia Records, and I moved right up to New York, and worked at Columbia Records for that summer of 2000. I didn't get paid, and I didn't even learn much. It wasn't that cool, to be honest. Like it was like my whole life is making sense. Yes, do this. You got to work in the industry. But what's interesting is my intuition, I guess now that I realize that's what you call it, but the voice in the back of my head was reminding me of industry rule number 4080, record company people are shady. So I knew that. I was like, I want to work in the industry because I'm trying to do what I love, and I love hip hop, but I feel like it might suck. I feel like it might not pay that well, and I might be overworked, and it might be what all these rappers say that it is. Yeah. but I have to find out for myself because I don't know what else to do. And, you know, my only other like skill was like service industry shit, you know, and I didn't want to just work at a restaurant or manage a restaurant. So I was like, no, I'm doing this. I'm pursuing the hip hop business, even though there's a voice telling me it's going to suck. And so I got in and it did kind of suck. And actually here's a funny mini story. So I'm working at Columbia Records and I'm inspired by what I'm reading about Puff Daddy and just a lot of other general like entrepreneurs and you know, hustlers, people outside of hip hop, business people and stuff. And I forgot who it was, but I think somewhere in the Puff Daddy book, it mentions something about how he like set up he was a young kid, but he like set up an interview with someone big, like Andre Harrell or something like that. And I don't know. So I got this idea. I think it was from the Puff Daddy book or somewhere else, where someone was saying to really maximize your internship, try to meet with the CEO of the company and tell them that under the premise of you want to introduce yourself. So I did that. So I went by Don Einer's office. You know, Don Einer, like pretty big, you know, multi-millionaire mogul.
Oh,
and I go to his office and I walk right in and I see his assistant. He's got 2 assistants. And she's like, hi, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I'm an intern. I'm in the product marketing division. I was wondering if I could set up a meeting with Don Einer. She goes, what department are you in? And I was like, product marketing. And she goes, and who's your superior? And I was like, Laura, whatever it was. And she's like, you might want to go talk to her. And I was like, okay. And then I just backed out like, oh shit, I did something wrong here. Yeah. And then, Laura Klein was her name. And then Laura Klein calls me into her office. She's like, I understand you tried to meet with Don Einer today. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to introduce myself. She's like, we don't do that here. You see, he takes his own elevator. Like, nobody ever sees him.
Wow.
And then, like, you know, reprimanding me. So that was my first lesson. This is not that cool of an industry where certain people are behind it.
It depends on the company. Because it sounds like these people, the assistant and Laura, whatever, they didn't sound very hip-hop.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean? And they didn't see the initiative being taken.
You got to remember, part of my gripe, I wasn't in much of the hip hop side of it. I just worked in the general product marketing division, but I saw some of these dudes that were interning in like the more hip hop stuff, and I was like, it looks like they're having fun. They're like packaging stickers, they're doing shit. And for a while, that was my thing. I'm like, man, I'm kind of in the right place, but the wrong part of the right place, you know? But yeah, you're right. Maybe if it was someone a little cooler, a little more hip hoppy, they might have been like, all right, young dude, I feel
like,
your hustle.
Even if you can't meet Don Einer, like, I respect that you tried to. Let me fuck with you. Let me take you. Because I think a lot of the success of interns depends on finding a mentor. And a person that'll take you under the wing and will pull you out of this.
Andre Harrell believed in him.
Exactly. You know? He saw that.
Gave him a shot.
Right, gave him a shot. Out of these 10 or 15 or whatever, let me pull this one out and let me really fuck with him.
Plus, it also, like I was going to say, it also
Laura didn't pull you out.
Laura doesn't know how.
She didn't show you no love.
But it sounds like you wanted to be in the hip-hop business, but not in the record industry.
Yes. Well, see, so I wanted to like open my own label,
right?
But I knew I had to like first work for some labels. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is during this time of working for the labels, I eventually grew out of that whole ambition, which is cool because I'm happy with who I am today. But so I did the internship at Columbia, but now the internship did not pay and it was 3 days a week. So for the other 4 days, I had to get a job. So I got a job doing, you probably know this guy, but you know the dudes that walk up to you on the street and say, yo, can I sell you some comedy club tickets?
That
was me. That was me. Hey, you like comedy clubs? Yeah. So I did that. So I started doing that while I was at Columbia. And that's what I'm saying. This whole time is pivotal because I'm in the industry, which I wanted, but I'm learning that I don't like it much. And then I get this side job just to get some money, but that job awakens a whole beast inside of me. Like it makes me no longer a nerd, essentially, because I'm on the street and it's like
be in people's
you're interacting.
Yeah.
And it was 100% commission. So there you go, Renda. You're on the street for 10 hours, make money. Yeah. And that was it. Walk up to people and sell them these tickets. And my boss was a super cool dude, Mark Wigginton. Shout out to Mark. Yeah. And he was from Florida. So that's the thing is, I got this internship with Columbia. And then, like, literally the day was confirmed. I hit the street, and I'm like, okay, now I need a job. So I go into this restaurant, and I'm on my way to this restaurant that had a sign that said help wanted. But as I'm walking to this restaurant, a guy comes up to me and says, hey, you like comedy clubs? And I looked at him, and I go, bro, I'm just trying to find a job. And he's like, you want a job? You want to do this? And I'm like, what? What
you're
you're
doing?
selling tickets? Yeah, I was like confused. I was like, nah, I don't think so. And I like really was just not trying to hear what he said, but I took his card. And then I went into the restaurant and I got hired as a host, and I started the next day, and I think I quit within 20 minutes. It was like the worst. I won't go into all that, but it was just stupid. You know, I was not trying to be a host at a restaurant. So I quit, and then I called this dude, Mark, and I'm like, yo, I want to do this. So he hired me, and I started as a regular dude on the street selling tickets. And within like 3 or 4 months, he promoted me to manager. So I was the manager of a whole team of street promoters. I was like the pimp, so to speak. And so that's what I'm saying. This is the time that I started becoming like a man.
Yeah.
You know, like this is where my confidence came from. I was like no longer a nerd. And so I'm on the street talking to people. I'm gaining confidence. And specifically, I'm gaining confidence with like how to talk to women. You know what I mean? And women are just better as a consumer too. They are more consumers. They buy more stuff. And so I started to learn how to talk to men and women, period, and how to sell. But I started to fine tune and focus on the ladies and stuff, you know, and
Target the women.
so it just helped me in many ways. But now the thing is, so I'm on the street and I got all these comedy club tickets and these like this display that you show people, and I got all this stuff that we got to carry. So all of us had a bag of some sort. So I had this like shoulder bag, like from the Gap. And so after Columbia, I worked at Arista Records and then J Records.
Oh, wow.
So chronologically, I'm moving around a little, but I'm tying it together, right? So during the Columbia time, I get the comedy job, but I worked the comedy job for a little while and then got the job at Arista. So I quit the comedy job because the Arista job was a job. It paid. It wasn't an internship. And I worked it for a while, but I hated it. And they had like a supply closet, and you know, everybody like be stealing off like pens and you know what I mean? So I just felt this obligation. Like, I hear you could just take stuff from the supply closet. You know what I mean? So I grabbed a notebook. That was it. You know, I wasn't trying to like, whatever, rob them. I just like, oh, okay, I'll take a notebook. And I started like just jotting down little ideas in there. But then I quit Arista, and then I worked at J Records, which was Clive Davis's second label. And then I got fired from J Records, actually, and I wasn't surprised because I was not a good employee because I didn't want to be there. I was not a happy person at all. I was miserable. So then I called up Mark, and I was like, yo, I want to come back. So I came back as a manager. So you see, right now now I got this notebook, and I got this bag, and so I just keep the notebook in the bag. And I'm on the street all day, and I'm absorbing all this energy. I'm meeting literally thousands of people a day, like having over 1,000 conversations, mini conversations with all different kinds of people. And in spare moments, you know, all this inspiration and this energy is coming to me, and I'm absorbing it, and I'm growing, and I'm becoming a man, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's when it started coming out of my hands, you know, out of my pen. And I had a notebook with me at all times. So it just became like sling the bag forward, grab the notebook, write down these 3 lines, put it back in the bag, sling it. Hey, what's up? You like comedy clubs? You know what I mean? And that was the routine. Oh, there's a hot girl. Let me put my notebook away. Hey, what's up? And that was the thing. And so I was just on the corner all day doing that. And then, you know, and so then what I was writing started to turn into poetry. I started to see this is poetry. This is that hip hop poetry, you know? And then I discovered all these open mics. So I started going to the New Eurekan Poets Cafe and the Bowery Poetry Club and Bar on A and like all these open mic. I discovered openmics.org, which had a calendar, and every night you could go to 3-4 open mics. So that's what I'm saying. 2000 to 2003, 4-ish, that was my life. That was my routine. On the streets all day, selling tickets, making money, making good money because I got good at it. Right. And then at night, hit these open mics, and then go home. Sometimes go home, you know what I mean? Sleep for 3-4 hours, and then I'm back out there, and it was just like the greatest life. And after 9/11, though, it did change a bit. You know, New Yorkers got a little shy on things. And I made a lot of money at the World Trade Center. Before it was knocked down, I used to be there every Friday, and I would make $200 to $250 cash every Friday. Talking to people, you know, being outside, enjoying the weather, talking to people, getting girls' numbers, thinking of lines and poems and ideas. It was beautiful, you know, and the towers got knocked down. That did change things a little. I worked a little longer, and then eventually I moved back to Florida. And then when I moved to Florida, then it was time to like process these few years of intense growth and inspiration and stuff. Because as much as I was like writing poetry and finding myself and all that, I was also a little bit lost because it was too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, yeah, you know. So I had to, you know, going to Florida was my attempt to like tone it down a bit and focus, you know, and it worked. It worked. So you know, I started living a little bit of a more normal, you know, suburban type of life. But for work, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, honestly. All I knew was I tried the record industry. I hated it. I majored in finance. I don't even know what that means still. Yeah. And so I'm not going into finance, and I don't really know what to do. So I kind of fell back on my roots, which is the service industry. So I went and worked at a sandwich shop at age 25, a sandwich shop that I worked at when I was like 18.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got to admit, there was a part of me that was like, Renda, you're doing the wrong thing with your life. You're fucking up.
Yeah.
You're a loser.
And you're hustling backwards.
Yes. So I got to admit that thought was there for a minute.
But you were still creating?
Yeah, well, not only still, but creating more than ever, you know? And so that was the part that made me not feel like a loser.
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, you work at a sandwich shop and you're 25 years old and it's the same shop that you worked at when you were 18 and all your friends are making money and having kids and getting married, but you're not a loser because you're writing and you're becoming a poet and you're doing some cool stuff that is not going to gestate properly until your 30s, you know? And so during the time I was 24, 25, 26, there were some like dark times that I doubted myself, but I always had this underlying belief that it would all make sense in my 30s. And it did. And of course, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. We become the things we think about and say and believe. But I just remember looking to, you know, I've always been inspired by people in general, successful people, especially, and famous people because their story is out there. But I just was inspired by people that didn't follow a very traditional path and maybe had a few years where they were a loser or where they were broke or where they were homeless or something. And then at sometime in their 30s or 40s or whatever, something clicked and they blew up.
And it all came together.
Yeah, and it all came together. So I was kind of comforted, you know, by that. But so now I'm back in Florida. I'm making sandwiches, but I'm also making poetry. And I recorded my first like official CD. And I went to a recording studio and I rode my bike to get there. And I paid for the studio time. And I'm networking and I'm meeting producers and people that could help me put together my vision. And actually, side note, you guys ever heard of Anti-Pop Consortium? No. Anti-Pop Consortium. It's actually spelled and it looks like consortium, right? But the right way to say it is consortium. But Anti-Pop Consortium started at the New Eureka Poets Cafe. There are 3 guys that are like MCs / poets, and they're insane, bro. They're like, they'll blow your mind. After this, I'll play you some of their stuff. But so I got exposed to them in New York and their CD and stuff. And so then when I came to Florida, that was my goal, to make a CD that was something like what I had heard from them. Because their whole CD was very hip hop, it was very poetry, and it was very unstructured. There was no verse hook type thing. And no basically all the tracks bled together. So I put my mind to this and I made it happen. And I released a CD, which was a big feat in like 2006. Now we're talking. So I released a CD with a thick jewel case, shrink wrapped with the barcode on it, what they call retail ready. I went through disc makers. You remember disc makers? I think they were headquartered here in Jersey. I went through disc makers. I spent like $2,500 to produce 1,000 of them, put it all on credit. This is when I first started even learning about credit. My whole life before that, everything was cash, and I was like a saver, and I was always saving like thousands of dollars, but I never understood all that. But at the time I wanted to do the CD, I did not have the money. And I was like, I think I need to step into this unfamiliar world of credit, you know? So I got my first credit card, maxed it out, you know, on the CD. And honestly, it was a little bit let down. It wasn't that
It wasn't successful?
No, not really. Like, you know.
It wasn't like your mixtapes?
No, that wasn't either.
Damn, I thought you were going to say you sold out.
No, I mean, I sold a lot. I sold them around Florida, and then I took like a trip up to New York, and I sold them on the street, and I did a lot, and I sold them like online, even though that was a bit of a new thing. I was on CD Baby. Do you remember CD Baby? Right? So I did sell a lot. I did my thing, but it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't what I thought or whatever. So I got to admit, there was a tiny bit of a letdown. But creatively, the CD, I loved it the way it came out. It was what I wanted, you know? And then I released another CD called Workaholic, and you know, and that was dope also, but, you know, it didn't make me rich or nothing, but it's the evolution of the creative person known as Renda Writer, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I did...
and it's the small achievements, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's all notches in my resume at the time, you know, I might have had whatever view on it. now in 2001 and 42, I'm looking back and I'm just like, it's just a bullet point from my life. Yes, I released a CD and then I released another CD and you know, but now I do murals all over the world. So boom, you know what I mean? But so yeah, I released Eclectic Poetic was the name of the first one, and then I released Workaholic. And so it was cool. I was becoming an artist. I was going to recording studios and all that, and I was meeting producers and rappers and singers and stuff, you know, and you know, got out of the sandwich business. And so I was going to a lot of open mics too. You know, as I got turned on to the whole open mic scene in New York. But now in Florida, I was like, okay, so do they have like open mics here? And I found a few. And I went to some and I got down with some other poets and stuff. But there wasn't enough. And at that time, I was very inspired by this quote from, I think, Toni Morrison. She said, if there's a book you would like to read and you cannot find it, then it means you must write it.
Wow.
And that was like, that hit me. And so I was like, okay, so you want to go to open mics and you want that New York feeling. And you've gone to a few that are okay. And a lot of them go out of business after a month. How about you start an open mic? You know? And so I did. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And then that became my job. And then I spent years hosting events. Like that was, so for, I want to say 2005 to like 13, I was living the dream. I'm living the dream now, but it was a different dream.
It was a different dream.
Yeah. And the point of this, the point of this, I hope you're getting it, is always pursue your dreams, no matter what they are, and be open-minded enough to know that your dreams are going to change. You know what I mean? So don't ever get mad that something happened, because that's something that happened that took you off track is really putting you on a different track, which is also a dream. So just pursue your dreams. You know, plural.
And don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to change. Like, be like water. You know, like Bruce Lee says, just be like water. You know, when you enter the cup, you take the form of the cup. You are the cup. You know, if you were in a pitcher, you'd be the pitcher. So, anyways, yes. So, like, that's what I'm saying. It's 2005 to 2013. Who was Renda Writer? He was a spoken word poet. He was very well known throughout South Florida, and the host and producer and promoter of several different events, mainly open mics. But doing the open mics introduced me to all kinds of performers and artists of all genres. So now this dude that just grew up on hip hop, now I'm meeting other spoken word poets. I'm meeting lots of comedians, and I'm drawing on my past as a comedy promoter. So I'm meeting comedians. I'm like, yo, I used to promote comedy clubs in New York. Boom, now we're like brothers. We're connected. You know what I mean? I meet rappers. Hey, I'm not a rapper, but like I'm influenced by rap and I'm a poet, you know, boom, we're like brothers, you know? And so I just started to realize like artists are my people, you know, like of all kinds. And then I started meeting visual artists. And so I started inviting visual artists out to my events to do live art at these, you know, stage-oriented events. And then I started doing more also events for artists. Like I put together an event called Easels and Turntables. So I had like 6 DJs and I had like 6 dudes doing live art, or dudes and girls doing live art. Easels and turntables, you know? So I like that. I enjoyed all that, you know? And then the other hat that I wore was that of magazine publisher. So 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm meeting everybody there is to know in South Florida. I'm talking from Fort Lauderdale to Miami, that Tri-County area. And I'm hosting these events, doing my own poetry at the events, doing my CDs and stuff and all that. Then I meet these dudes, Dwayne and John, and they're like graphic designers, they're artists, they're visual artists, they're graffiti artists, and they're graduates of the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. Actually, they're dropouts of the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. So I meet them, and they're like recognizing my greatness, and they're like, yo, you're like a mouthpiece, you're like known, like we got to do something. We do graphics, like let's start a magazine. So we did. And we started this magazine. It was called We Merge Magazine, because we merge the artists with the reader. And it was like 10 different meanings. You know, it was also like emerge as part of it, whatever. So I won't go into all the thinking behind that, but we had this brilliant idea for a magazine, and we saw it through. We made it happen. And so we did the first issue, and then John and Dwayne got in a fight, and so John dropped out the picture, and then it was just me and Dwayne. And then we put out like 12 more issues over the course of 4 years, and it grew like crazy. The first issue was 18 pages. The last issue, when I left, was 80. We went from 18 to 80. Nice. And the first issue, our distribution was 2,500. The last issue when I left was, I believe, 20,000. So we went from 2,500 to 20,000. And it was this magazine all about local art. And by art, It was everything. So we
Right.
covered comedians, rappers, tattoo artists, harmonica players, like fucking everything. We had like an 80-year-old, this guy, Murray the K, would come to all my open mics, and I'd have like a hardcore hip hop dude, and I'd be like, all right, give it up for hip hop Johnny, you know? And now next up is Murray the K. He's gonna play harmonica. Like, it was just beautiful. I just reveled in the variety of it all, you know? And I created some really close friendships with these people. I had this guy, Xavier Hawk, shout out to him. He used to come out, he would play didgeridoo, he would play guitar, he would sing, he would rap. He had this like Native American feel. He would do these like Native American chants mixed with hip hop and stuff. And I'm still friends with him to this day. Damn. And so that whole time was just, as you can see, like, look how I'm talking. I'm like, man, those were the days.
It was
you know?
passionate. It was passionate.
Yeah, it was just real. But so at that time, I was known as Renda only, not Renda Writer, just Renda. I've always gone by Renda since I was like 10. Renda is my real last name. My first name, I don't tell people, no matter how much they ask. And some people ask it incessantly. And I'm like, what does it mean to you? I can tell you my first name right now.
And
But what would that do for you? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
what does that do for you? It's called trivia.
Yeah.
You know, like Bob Dylan, his real name is Robert Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Now that you know that.
What good is it?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's not like, oh, now he sucks.
Yeah,
Oh,
like, what's up?
His name is Zimmerman? He sucks.
And that's the thing. You're not even listening to Robert Zimmerman. You're listening to Bob Dylan. You're not listening to Earl Simmons. You're listening to DMX, you know?
DMX,
So if I tell you I'm Renda Writer, that's it. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I'm just Renda, you know, from age 10 on. But now this time that we're speaking of, you know, 2005 to 2013, I'm Renda. I'm a poet, and I'm all about my handwriting. So I was big on business cards, still am. And, you know, as this hustler, there's always work. And I always had business cards in my hand. As soon as I meet you, it's in your hand, you know? And my brilliant idea for my business card in like 2005 was to handwrite my info and make the card like that.
Right.
And so,
Dope.
and I still do that. I'm going to give you my card in a
Very
second.
hip hop.
Yeah.
Very hip hop.
So the card is handwritten, and then it was around that time that I just realized writer goes well, you know, like I'm all about the handwriting. My business card is handwritten. My website had this handwritten vibe. It was all about yellow legal paper and blue ink. That was my vibe, and still is. You see it right here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying this vibe that I rock with now has not changed and was established around that time. So yes, so then it just clicked. Okay, writer is like your last name, Renda Writer. Boom, look at your business cards, look at your website, blah, blah, and stuff like that. So I go through these years of hosting events, doing poetry, running a magazine, etc. Then we get to 2013, 14, like I said, now is how I become a visual artist, right? And, you know, that's when I start to become nomadic. I was living in Boca Raton, got out of a relationship, had nowhere to go, start living out of my car, and blah, blah. I've always been the kind of person that finds shit on the street and in garbages. I go dumpster diving, and I would always like to find things. Always. I don't know why. I just really revel in that, you know? And so
Shout out to my aunt. She's just like
She's
that.
like
yo.
that,
I
yeah.
love her- I love her for
Recycle. You
that.
got to
Yeah.
recycle,
totally.
man.
Some people are just about that life.
Yeah.
And it's fun. So I've always been that. But when I find stuff that's cool, it's like, okay, this is cool. Now, is it cool for me to keep? Is it cool for a friend? I could give it to a friend. Or is it cool like it has value, like I could sell it? And so it's always like one of those three categories. But now around this time, I'm like just finding cool shit in alleys and dumpsters and on the street. And then I'm starting to realize there's a fourth category. Write on it.
Yeah.
Turn it into art, you know? And so
Oh.
this is when this was my first the first thing that I realized could be a medium outside of yellow legal paper. Because in 2010, I started doing what I would call art on yellow legal paper. I would take a piece of yellow paper and fill it with words. And then I laminated it. And that was when in 2010, I started getting this idea I could be a visual artist. But I was busy. I was in a relationship. I was doing the magazine. I was doing all the events and stuff like that. Then I got out of that relationship. Then I left the magazine. Then a lot of things changed and fizzled. And I had to be reborn. And so I tapped into this idea of yellow legal paper and art. And so now we're 2013. And then I start discovering that the shit I find on the street I could do something else with it. Instead of selling it or giving it to a friend, I could write on it, and now that's art. So that's what I'm saying. That's a new medium outside of yellow legal paper. And so I start making art on wood and highway reflectors and air conditioning vents and hubcaps and just things that I find and just writing little words on it and stuff. And I hadn't yet come up with a lot of my more famous slogans, like your comfort zone will kill you and stuff. And although I did, that was around then, but I'm just saying in the very, very beginning, I was writing a little bit more lengthy, verbose stuff like poems and things. But I started to also realize how to dumb it down, or not dumb it down, but shrink it down to smaller sentences, bite-sized. And anyways, then I did a show. I did like my first solo art show in 2013. And that was in Boynton Beach, Florida. And then I did another show in downtown Miami at a friend's apartment. The dude whose couch I was sleeping on, I was like, bro, can I just hang up art all over your apartment and do a show here? And he's like, yeah. So I did a series of shows. It was every Saturday in September of 2013, I guess it was, there was a private art show at this dude's apartment. And what was hanging up? Garbage. Just garbage with words on it. And so, yes, I did that. But then, so 2013, you know, and I should mention, you know, if we look at the parallel, like the life of the artist and the life of like the guy who has to make money, you know? Yeah. So I, once again, returned to the service industry and I was working at a juice shop. So now I'm not making sandwiches, I'm making juices like that, right? Yeah, yeah. So, and it was dope because that was pivotal in my development as a man because now I'm super health conscious and I love juice and I love fruit and vegetables and all that, you know what I mean? But anyway, so I worked at the juice shop for a year, all of 2013 or into 2014, while I'm making garbage art, while I'm doing shows, and I'm totally done with the open mics and the magazine and all that. But I'm doing these things and I'm enjoying it, and I'm battling some of the doubtful thoughts. Are you a loser or not? I can't figure it out. You know what I mean? Like seriously. But
you have these good years and then these other years.
But
it's a fine line, you know. It's a fine line.
And in retrospect, you're always awesome. You know, like when I'm 80, I'm just gonna be like, no, the whole thing was good, man. All 80 years,
even the battle,
it was great. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what I'm saying. So I'm doing all that, and then I quit the juice shop because I actually made really good money there. So I had like $8,000 saved up, and I thought I was rich. And I bought this van for like $1,800, and I'm like, I got 7 G's in a van. Yeah. I'm making art. It's picking up. Then I get on like Instagram, and you know, so that was a pivotal because nowadays, shit, Instagram is like my thing, you know. And so that's what I'm saying. 2013, 14, I get on Instagram. I quit the job. I got the van. I got money in my pocket. I'm making art. I'm finding myself as an artist, and then I do my first mural. So the end of 2014, I'm walking down the street and I'm holding this portrait of Nas. I got a friend named Jake who's recognizing my artistic tendencies, and he does portraits. He's an artist. So he painted this portrait of Nas and gave it to me, and I'm like, I'm gonna write Nas lyrics all over it. So I'm in Wynwood, the Wynwood Art District. Shout out to Wynwood altogether.
Shout out to Wynwood.
Because now you're going to see at this point in the story, Wynwood is my muse. From that point on until right now, Wynwood is just like my girlfriend. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm walking in Wynwood. I'm holding this Nas portrait, and I'm high, and I'm wearing this... And I'm wearing this,
as you should be.
Right? And I'm wearing this like provocative t-shirt. And I'm walking down the street and this guy goes, hey man, I like your t-shirt. You mind if I take a picture of it? And I was like, no, go ahead. So he takes a picture of my shirt and he's like, I gotta send this to my girlfriend. So he sends it to his girlfriend and we start talking. And it turns out he owns this gallery that we're standing in front of. And then I say to him, so what's up with the wall? Because he's got this big blue wall. It's just blue. There's no mural on it. And we're in Wynwood and there's murals everywhere. Right. And I'm like, why don't you have a mural? And he's like, I don't know. I guess I haven't met the right artist. And I'm like, well, I'm an artist. You see? And I'm like, I'm an artist. Because now I'm realizing I'm an artist.
Yeah,
like,
you are an artist.
Own that shit.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm an artist.
Manifest destiny.
You just speak it into existence. So I'm not a mural artist, but I tell him I'm an artist. And I tell him, honestly, I've never done a mural, but I'd like to try. So basically, that was my first mural. So I wrote, love is a risk, do it anyway. My original saying, and people might not realize that because it's so popular now. I sometimes tell people, yeah, I'm the guy. They're like, no, you're not. Yeah. Same way your comfort zone will kill you. I'm like, I'm the guy. Yeah. I'm the guy that started this shit. But anyway, so I did this mural, love is a risk, do it anyway. I wrote that phrase literally 500,000 times. It's not an exaggeration because the whole phrase is only about this long and the wall was 40 feet by 40 feet. So how many of these can you fit in that? 500,000.
Damn.
So it took me like 6 weeks. I wrote Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway, 500,000 times, 6 weeks. And that is when another, I keep saying that's when it, because every day should feel like that. But this was the day. And then tomorrow, that's when it, that's, you should be feeling like that. So anyway, if you're doing it right, life. So, but the mural really was big as far as making me a mural artist. And it was just interesting because I'm working on it on the street. So I'm obviously meeting people every day that are walking by. And now this is during Art Basel. So I worked on it for 6 weeks leading into Art Basel. And I finished it during Basel. So now there's not only people walking down the street, but there's people from all over the world walking down the street. And I met so many people while working on that first mural that I am still in touch with today. And I met so many people working on that first mural that those relationships turned into more murals. Like I met a guy from Boston. Boom. Years later, I did a mural in Boston because of him.
Right.
I met a guy from LA. Years later, I did a mural in LA because of him. Because I keep in touch. I follow up. This is business. Like it's creative. It's fun as hell. Sure, you could be high and do things like that, but you got to follow up. You say, I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow. You meet someone, you message them the next day. Hey, it was nice to meet you. You know what I mean? So I've always known that kind of stuff. And I'm grateful that somehow that was intrinsic in me, this like business etiquette. But so does that answer your question?
That's awesome. I gotta go down the list and see.
But no, I'll let you return more to the process here.
Might I say, I want to say this, man. I love that story. Because it just, hopefully it'll spark the next artist. You know what I mean? Like, your whole life, you just got to keep pushing forward. And you set out what you became finally. You set out to do it and you did it.
Have you seen My Name is Dolomite, the Dolomite movie?
Yes, I've seen that, yes.
How inspiring is that? He did the same kind of thing with his life. And I remember the one scene where he's with a friend or something, and he goes, man, you can't just will yourself into being that, whatever it was. And and then I remember he like fired back, like, man, I willed myself into this, I willed myself into that. Remember, like, because he did all these things with his life. That was so inspiring. And I looked at that like, that's what I did. I just willed myself into all these roles. I'm an artist, I'm a professional artist, but I did not go to art school. You know what I mean? Like, you just create your own life and you look at life as art. So that's what I'm saying. This is my greatest piece and it's a work in progress. I gotta say though, like, to me, you are probably the personification of freedom. Like, you're free. You're free from like just social and economic constraints. Feel free to feel free. I agree. Yes, and so what I was pointing at is I have this tattoo on my arm that
like
says
what you
"Feel free to
describe
feel
is
free."
actual freedom.
Yes,
like
100%.
Being 100% liberal, like free, just free from all. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's beautiful. I think if more people experience that, things here would be different.
Well, I think everyone should experience that, and maybe if they can't devote their whole life to freedom like I have, you should just.
But that's what
allow
I mean.
yourself,
at least experience it, not maybe live your life that way, but just experience it.
Right,
just
that's
to
what I'm
get
saying.
a different perspective on things.
Even if it's for an hour a day, or even if it's just the weekends or whatever, you gotta take a break from whatever your life is, your kids or your soul-sucking job or whatever.
This is it.
Yeah, and and that's like what I was saying. If you're nerdy and you're passionate about something, cool. You might be bogged down with all your responsibilities, but if you learn to just lose yourself in the things you love, that's where you find yourself. See what I mean? And that's a saying too. It's not my own, but that's some kind of a saying somewhere. But lose yourself, and that's where you find yourself.
Of course. Yeah.
And
also art. I think also art. Like, there's, you're the personification of an artist. Like, how much more of an artist can you be that you pick up literally garbage from the street and turn it into art? Like, that's art. Valuable like you said, life is art, but I also think art is life. You know what I mean? So 100%. It goes both ways.
Yeah, I got some friends in Miami that have an organization called Life is Art, like lifeisart.org. And I'm just, obviously I've always seen it that way, but then I meet them and I'm like, okay, this is solidified. Yes, life is art. Boom. Like, just live accordingly. But the truth is, it's not. Life is what you make it. So if you choose to make it art, if you choose to identify with that kind of quote, go ahead. But the only quote you need to identify with is that life is what you make it. I feel like that's the most profound thing ever. Like, everything is what you make it. True. Everything is perception. A colorblind person will look at a red object differently than you, but he is not wrong. Because it's all perception. The back of a stop sign means absolutely nothing. But as soon as you go around to the other side, it says stop. This is where I stop.
No, that's true. That's absolutely very true. Like, if you look at it from both perspectives,
And that's
Different
where I should
meanings.
probably just bring up KRS-One before we go any further.
Yeah, I was gonna
Because-
say the World Peace Tour.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that specifically, but also I like him because he's the kind of person that talks like this. You know what I mean? Like this is where I learned to talk like this. This is where I learned to see life as a philosopher. My philosophy. You know what I mean? Like,
Were you
so
a fan
of KRS-One
back in the day?
Back in the day and today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, guys.
Dude, he has 30 albums. I know you're a hip hop head. I know you're hip. That's why we're here, right? Even you guys, I'm sure you're not half aware of his more recent catalog because he's been busy as fuck in his like post, big
Heyday.
time. Yeah, like he in the last few years he dropped an album called Now Hear This. Then he dropped an album called Street Light. He dropped one like a month ago called Between the Protests. And these are full albums.
Right.
He did an entire album with Bumpy Knuckles. He did an entire album with Showbiz. Actually, it's kind of an EP. He did an album with Young Z of The Outsiders. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you think you know KRS-One, you don't. Go deeper. The dude is so thick, like his catalog, his life. He's insane. Books too, like just go to KRS-One.com. I mean, it's interesting because his website looks very outdated. It looks like a AOL GeoCities type of site, but I guess that's because he does it himself. He's the current KRS-One is so inspiring. If you liked the 80s and 90s and the music, like you need to go to one of his shows. I don't know if shows happen anymore, but whatever. You need to meet him. You know what I mean? Like, or you need to go see him speak. Or have you seen him perform?
No, I've never seen him perform.
What?
Get out of here. Yeah.
No.
I say hip hop.
No.
I've seen him like 8 or 9 times now, or I don't know, maybe 5 or
seen him
6 or
before.
whatever. Okay, we got one guy. All right,
Yeah.
I'll stay. But no,
Nice.
but yeah. So, but all right. To get back to the focus of the interview and the relevance of your question about the World Peace Mural Tour. So I like KRS-One in general.
Yeah.
he inspires just my general philosophy and way of looking at things, and like I was, that's what made me think of it when I'm talking about like you look at the back of a stop sign and stuff, because he's the type of person when you listen to him speak or in his music, intelligent, clever hip hop dudes are ones that often use analogies, to explain things, and that's creativity. That's called poetry, whatever. Yeah. But anyway, so KRS and the World Peace Mural Tour. Well, I like his music. I like his philosophy. He influences me in many ways. But now let's return to this timeline we were on. So I did that mural in 2014. Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway. And as soon as I finished that, which was the beginning of 2015, I hit the ground running. And I did another mural and another mural. And now I'm getting paid for them too. By the way, that 6-week mural, I didn't get paid a dime for it. So that's a message to all you guys that say, I ain't working for free. Yo, if you're new in the game and you're just starting, you should do it for free. And you should figure out a non-monetary way to leverage that later in your career.
And it worked.
You know what I mean?
Obviously, it worked for you.
Yes. So I leveraged it into a career. Right. You know what I mean? I was like, I spent 6 weeks working on a mural for free, but everybody loves it. And it became like a hit on Instagram. And I see what's going on here. And I did another mural and I got paid very little, but I got paid. And then I did another mural and I got paid very little, but I got paid. So anyways, did a few more murals in the Miami area and then like Fort Lauderdale and stuff. And then I was like, okay, now I see how it all comes together. This love for hip hop, this love for words, this desire to create art, the art I made on garbage, the art I made on yellow paper. Now I'm a mural artist. I did words on a wall, and I did another one, and another one, and another one, and now I realize I'm gonna call them handwritten murals. Now I got a branding idea. Like it's very specific. I'm a handwritten artist. Makes sense. Renda Writer, the business cards, all that, right? It's clicking, and then I finally put in another piece, which is I've always wanted to travel. Because, like I said, I was born in New York, moved to Florida, moved back to New York. It's just a lot of New York, Florida stuff, right? And I was like, there's got to be more than New York and Florida.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Did you still have the van?
Yes, eventually. But in this time, no, the van. Yes, very soon in where I'm at. But yes, this is just like the thoughts, and then these kind of thoughts is what manifested the van.
Right.
You feel me? So, right. Yes, that is, Yes, that's when I got the van. Around that time, within 6 months of all this, is what we're saying, right? So I got the van and stuff, and now I'm starting to see. I have done now 15 or 20 murals in Florida,
Right.
and then and making money for them and from them, and like conceptualizing it even further with the handwritten murals concept. And I bought handwrittenmurals.com and blah blah. So yes, and now I got the van to enable the traveling. So I did my first out-of-state mural in Asheville, North Carolina, via van. But so now we're going to bring it into the KRS-One. So now around this time, like I said, I'm many murals in Florida, and now a lot of self-actualization, realizing stuff about myself and my path, and then and then tapping into this long desire to travel. There's more than New York and Florida. And then literally, this is how it happened. Almost like an epiphany. I watch interviews all the time with people on podcasts and stuff. And sometimes they say, it all happened right. And I'm like, no, it didn't. You're just simplifying. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're just saying that because you're in an interview and it sounds cool. But this is the truth. I usually wake up with a song in my head. Mm-hmm. And it's not always hip hop. A lot of times it is. But it could be Tina Turner, whatever. One day I woke up with the song World Peace in my head by KRS-One, well, by BDP. So it was on the Blueprint album. Do you know the song? Because it wasn't that big of a hit. No. Yeah. I'm not surprised you don't. I ain't mad about that. But check it out. So it's on the Blueprint album, which had other hits, I don't know. Whatever. So the Blueprint album, right? Mm-hmm. So literally that song popped in my head when I woke up, and I literally just was like, that's it. World Peace. I've done all these murals and they've said different things. Love is a risk, do it anyway. And then I did one at a gym that had a lot of like motivational quotes related to like working out and like persistence and Muhammad Ali quotes and Michael Jordan quotes and stuff, right? And so and then I did a positive self-affirmation mural at like a little mom and pop eatery, Smart Bites, shout out. It's still there. That mural is still there. A wall of I am positive, I am confident, I am la la la, I am statements, right? So I had done like lots of murals and lots of different types of words. But when the song hit my head, I was like, that's what I'm going to do, man. World peace. I'll write world peace over and over and over and over. And who could not like that?
Right.
Who will hate on that?
Right.
Nobody. So
who's against world peace?
Yeah, who's gonna say they don't like it?
Cartoon villain and shit.
Right? And so that was a revelation in itself. It was like 9 revelations in one, because I'm just like, this just fulfills so many things. And, it's like nobody will dislike it, and it, it's like I've stepped up to it. I've done murals, blah blah, right? All this stuff is making sense. And now here's the part that really makes sense. It is a worldwide message. It is the message to travel with. Mm-hmm. Like, if you really want to travel and you want to see that it's more than New York and Florida, mm-hmm. and you want to build on the fact that you're now an artist and now you're a mural artist, and you do words and you do handwritten murals, you figured that out. But what kind of handwritten murals are the kind that everyone will want? So it doesn't take a lot of explanation, a lot of back and forth emailing. Well, what do you want? What do you want it to say? And blah, blah. It's just boom, world peace. What's up? Who's booking a world peace mural? So that was all KRS-One. Now check this out. So my goal was to do 5 murals in 5 places, 5 states. Mm-hmm. And Asheville, North Carolina was one of those 5. So I did the one in Asheville, and then I did like Los Angeles and Boston, and I don't even remember, Dallas, and maybe something else, whatever, right? So my goal was to do 5, but then I like accidentally did 7. You know what I mean? I just kept going.
Didn't stop at 5.
Yeah. And I was like, why stop? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
you
now I've done,
goal.
Yeah, it's just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, and if it's making you happy and it's like it's taking you around the world, keep doing it. Yeah. And yeah, I did 5 in America, and then I was like, but it's world peace, bro. Like, you can't claim world peace and only do America.
Exactly.
You just can't do that. So in like 2016, I went to Europe, and I did Spain, Italy, France, and England. Okay. Spain, Italy, France, and England. Right, that's 5. Whatever. Nice. So I did Europe, but in those 5 places, I did like maybe 12 murals. I don't even remember, man. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not afraid to admit I don't know stuff, because sometimes I listen to these interviews and I'm like, man, you have an impeccable memory, But I don't remember. But I did like it was deep in my mind for a while, because I was impressed. It was like X amount of murals and X amount of days. I'm like, damn. Did I even sleep? It was something like 25 in 30 days or something. I don't know, or 16.
Doesn't
maybe
it like get
something
cramped
like that.
after a while?
Yes, like, bro, I'm in so much pain
Doesn't the
all the
arms-
time.
You don't suffer from carpal tunnel?
I do. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And people ask you like they phrase it like that, so you don't, and I'm like, no, I do. I do. And what's crazy is
can
for a
imagine.
while I didn't. For a while that was my answer, and then it would add to like the mystique. They'd be like, really? And I'd be like, no, I don't know. I don't feel any pain. And that was the truth too. But that only lasted a few years. You know, maybe 2 years ago, it started to change. And I was like,
body kicks
okay,
in.
yeah, my hands, my shoulder, my back, my feet. I got like a sciatica thing going. I got like so much pain, bro. I
It's
broke
the
my
40s,
arm.
man. The 40s.
Yeah,
God,
exactly.
yo.
42, you know, 40 deuce.
how it all
But
connects.
yeah, and I broke my arm and like I got electrocuted.
Damn.
You wanna hear that story? I mean, I'll make it
shit,
short.
yes.
I got electrocuted.
Yes.
Right.
That's
I was-
part of the genius, though. I feel like.
No, I really almost died. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. That was a near-death experience. So there's like a true podcast moment. But, you know, take that blurb.
Yeah.
So I had a near-death experience in Dallas while doing a mural. Boom, cut that. But no, it's for real. I was doing a world peace mural. It was Dallas was one of those first 5, and I was on like the second line of writing world peace on this gigantic wall. Like it was, I don't know, I want to say like 150 feet wide and like 30 feet tall maybe. Wow. And the wall already had like a bit of a mural on it. It had, and this is, bro, I just love, we're going to get into this. Obviously, we're in it, but serendipity, synchronicity, moments like that, coincidences in quotes, right? So in the middle of this wall is kind of already a mural. It's a portrait, a aerosol art portrait of a woman named Paz, which means peace, right?
Yeah.
Paz Lenchentin. And she is the bassist for the Pixies. You guys heard of the Pixies?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Paz Lenchentin is the bassist for the Pixies. An artist named Muck Rock, who is ridiculously talented and travels like crazy and is a huge inspiration to me and why I do all this. I maybe discovered Muck Rock on Instagram before this, or maybe discovered her at the first via this, but whatever. This portrait of Paz Lenchentin was by Muck Rock, so maybe that was my first exposure to Muck Rock. And then I started following her on Instagram, and I was like, I love her. Oh yes, because I hit her up, and I was like, hey, the gallery wants me to do a mural like around your Paz. Is that cool with you? And see, I got the etiquette, right?
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah,
and
of
she
course.
said, yeah, that's cool. So I wrote world peace all around Paz Lenchentin, and then I wrote Paz Mundial, world peace in Spanish, as I got closer to her. It was just brilliant, bro. And I did it right, and all this mix of colors, whatever. But the point is, I got electrocuted. So when I was on the second line, I bumped into these high voltage electric wires that were like this thick around. Damn. And I bumped into them on my side. Ooh. It zapped me, and I felt myself turn off.
Oh.
Like when you power down a computer.
Hey,
I've always thought that's what a concussion would feel like. I've never had a concussion.
I've had a concussion.
But I've always
it doesn't feel
kind of like that, like a really serious
like
concussion.
a reset, like
yeah.
oh shit.
No,
like
it doesn't feel
the
like
computer got reset.
But
feel like that.
so
No?
it was like darkness and a shutdown feeling and a bit of a scared feeling, but mixed with an okay feeling. To be honest, I really had this like thought, like a micro thought, you know what I mean? Because you know, like fast your thoughts move in your own head, but it was kind of like, oh, this is it.
I was just gonna say,
You know what I mean? Like seriously, it was like, meh.
You're like,
This,
peace.
I'm going out. Yeah, like what am I gonna do about it? So like I accepted it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be poetic though? An artist going out for his art.
Yes. And here's another quote. See, how many people have I quoted? Toni Morrison and KRS-One and all these people, right?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
Yes, Bruce Lee. Charles Bukowski said, find what you love and let it kill you.
Heard that.
Charles Bukowski, poet and postal worker. Spent his whole life as a mailman, blew up as a poet in his 40s. Tell me if that's inspiration.
Wow. See?
Blew up as a poet in his 40s in like the 70s. Anyway, so I bumped into these high voltage wires. I blacked out, turned off, and accepted it and died, and then woke up on the ground and realized I'm not. But I felt like 25 feet easily. Like I was at the top. So I got up and I
And
was
were
like,
you alone?
yes, 100% alone.
Wow.
Well, out there. So
Right.
then my inclination was go inside and
Yeah,
tell them what
find
happened.
somebody.
So I went inside. I mean, I was okay. I just was a little shocked and stuff, but I was like grateful I was alive. And, you know, it took me a second to realize. And I was like, oh my God, that's what happened. Wow. So I went inside and I told the women that ran the gallery and they were like, what? They were like, have a seat. And I sat down. They put like a wet towel on my head and I sat for like 10 minutes and then I waited another 10 minutes and then I got right back to work.
Yeah.
And I felt like weird too. I was tingling.
I was say,
like
were
numbing
you
my
waiting
lips.
for like superpowers to kick in? Oh, finally.
They did, bro.
They
did.
Obviously.
Yeah. They fueled my
He's a
career.
poetic superhero.
Yeah,
Look at that.
I'm lightning. Look at how much
Lightning.
energy I got. This is it. I'm electric, bro.
There you go.
But yeah, I held on to it.
That's
so,
awesome.
anyways, but now here's the thing. I met KRS-One once.
That was going to be my question. How did it feel when? Did you get to tell him that he inspired this?
Yes.
And how did it feel when you did?
Felt pretty good. I wonder how it felt for him too.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that. A guy comes up to you and he's like, "Hey man, I just want you to know I've done like 40 murals." This was around it was 40. Someone walks up to you. I've done like 40 murals all over the world because of this song you did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it
I'd be
was,
like, wow.
to answer your question, I'll tell you how it felt for me, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, first,
Imagine,
yeah, him, like, you know?
I wouldn't know what to
But,
say.
yeah.
Especially if he had like no idea.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you know sometimes he might hear like, oh, there's an artist creating something based
Right.
off your stuff, and you'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool.
But,
But if he had no idea, and you're like, yeah, dude, check it
So
out.
I told him this. So I did a mural in the South Bronx. And on the wall, I also wrote, "Rest in peace, Scott LaRock." And when I met him,
crazy.
I told him that.
Nice. So he knew.
Yeah.
He knew you knew.
I like walked up to him and I was like, yo, and I had a flyer in my hand. Again, you got to have the physical, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, because, you know, pulling out your phone, come on,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
By the
And
time you
notifications
find
are coming in.
something,
Oh, hold on, let me just scroll here, you know? But anyway,
That's
so.
true. I hate that.
Yeah, man.
I hate that.
That's why I got this, bro.
Yeah.
That's what inspired me to do
That's,
this. And we should open this up, but I don't want to take you
Yeah.
off track. And I know I'm a lot
No,
of
no,
words,
we'll,
but
we'll get that on camera.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get it on.
But that's very
originally I was thinking we'll just go through this and talk about the story on each guy. But
that's
whatever.
very 80s hip hop. Like
Flyers.
yeah, like
That's why the
flyers, like
hip-hop
put it in
museum
the
is great.
hand,
Right,
You know,
right,
like
right,
get it in the
Even 90s.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Flyers were still rocking
and the
for a while.
comedy job too. Like
Yes.
you got to
Yes.
get it in their hand. Once
mean,
it's in their
you gotta
hand,
remember,
it's
up
Yes, yeah, put it in
80%
their
sold.
hand. Yeah.
Up until
you know.
the early 2000s, like record companies still had street teams running
Yes.
around putting posters up and
All
shit.
that
you
is
know
so
what I'm
inspiring too. When I was at Columbia, I remember one time I like saw that the street team was going out and I was like, yo, can I join you? And I joined them and we went to some like industry events all over downtown. But I remember I was just so like tired. I was like, been up since like 6 a.m., worked the whole day and then went out with them. And I was like, when do I eat? You know what I mean? But yeah.
That's crazy.
That's all hip hop, yo.
So I did a mural in the South Bronx, and when I met KRS-One, I told him that and stuff, and I gave him the flyer. That's what you were saying. So I gave him the flyer. I showed him. I was like, yo, because of your song, I did this. And he's like, word? Where is that one? And he points at the one I did in L.A., and I'm like, that's in L.A., but I also did one in the Bronx, and I wrote Rest in Peace, Scott LaRock. And he was like, word? Send me that. Or something. And I like, you know, I've met him a few times. I wonder if he knows me even, you know what I mean? Even though we met many times, and even with all that, who knows? I don't know. I would hope he knows me. Yeah, I mean, his people know me for sure. I got so many KRS-One stories, bro. Like, one time I went to see him in West Palm Beach. I was supposed to do a world peace mural live while he was performing, but I missed my flight. I was trying to ball too hard. I was trying to do too much. See, and that's a lesson. Don't try to do too much. You can be all excited and everything and say, hey, I'm electric, but you got to tone it down sometimes. Because
you still have to have that business mentality, yeah.
And self-care, you know. That's a
can't burn yourself out either.
You know, cliche term, but you know, you can't do too much. Because I had booked a flight to Kentucky from Florida to go to Kentucky to do a mural. And this guy named Paul, shout out to Paul. See, how many people have I shouted out to? It's about the people,
It's
man.
about
We're
the
connected.
love, yeah.
So my buddy Paul Clove was working with this club, and they booked KRS-One, and he hit me up immediately, and he's like, bro, you're the biggest KRS-One fan in the world. He's performing. Do you want to do live art? I'm like, yes, I do. Let's do a world peace mural. Oh my God, this is great. This is great. I'm going to do a world peace mural, right? And I think this was after the time I met him when I told him all that. So it was even better. It was like, boom, now you're going to really know me, dude. And so when I booked this Kentucky mural, I I was so excited, and I like to couple things. I like to put a lot of events together, you know, and like make like a schedule. So I was like, cool, I'll fly, whatever the dates were. I was like, I'll fly to Kentucky, I'll do the mural on the 25th, and then I'll fly back on the 26th and go straight from the airport to the club and do the mural. You know what I mean? I'm like, that'll be so gangster, right? But I missed my flight, so I missed the freaking gig. And so I got there, and Paul was there, and I was like, yo, it was like midnight or whatever. I'm like, did I miss him? And he's like, yeah, bro, he just left. And I was like, all right, well, I'll still do the mural. So I did the mural because I'm a man of my word. Old school again. Boom. How many times I mentioned that?
And
you know,
ethics.
Like, stick to your word. Word is bond. You know what I mean? So word. I mean, how could I not be about the words? And so whether they're written or they're spoken as a spoken word poet, or they're written as an artist, or they're spoken in conversation, that is the core of what I do. Like that's what I would like known, because sometimes people are like, oh, you write love, you know, or they're like, whatever, they got their own perception. Well, if you'd like my perception of me, you know what I mean? The truth is that I'm a man who just wants to put out this idea that words are powerful because of the fact that you write things into existence, you speak things into existence, you think things into existence. So careful how you joke, you know what I mean? Like careful about your sarcasm, like careful about your negative self-talk, you know what I mean? Like really that I just want to say that. That's what I'm really about. Yeah. And it's okay if you see me as the guy who writes love, or even the guy who writes world peace, or it's okay because that's all true. But my perception of me is I'm the guy that's pushing the idea, which is not even my own idea. Right. It's not even just an idea. It's reality. I'm just telling you, yo, this is how it works. The universe. It's the law of attraction. It's speak things. It's word is bond. Word is bond. Word is bond.
Tune in next week for part 2 of our interview with world-renowned artist Renda Writer. Thank you for listening to the GAHHD. Peace.